Hello everybody, welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about Facebook banning the voice of Trump from their platform. This means that if you actually interview Trump and post that on Facebook, you can get banned, which is interesting, right? Let's get to it. So first we're going to start with the message itself from Facebook customer support. And the message is, in line with the block we placed on Donald Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts, further content posted in the voice of Donald Trump will be removed and result in additional limitations on the accounts. Yahoo News added, Facebook has removed a video of former US President Donald Trump from the page of his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Despite the presence of the infamous swoosh, this is a mistake. Lara Trump, a News Fox contributor, posted a video of herself interviewing Mr. Trump on a range of issues. Lara Trump, who is married to Mr. Trump's son Eric, instead posted the interview for her own online show, The Right View, on the video platform Rumble and linked it from her Facebook page. Routers adds, Trump was suspended from Facebook and Facebook-owned Instagram indefinitely over incitement of violence following the January 6th riot by Trump supporters at the United States Capitol in Washington. Facebook has sent the case of Trump's suspension to its independent oversight board. The Facebook spokeswoman, who spoke on the condition that her name not be used, confirmed that the email was real, but declined to comment. Trump spokesman Jason Miller did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the action. Trump was barred by several social media platforms after the riot, including Twitter, which said its ban is permanent, and Alphabet Inc.'s YouTube, which said it will reinstate his account when the risk of violence decreases. Since the ban, the former president has been shown speaking on Facebook's platforms in news coverage from outlets such as Fox News and Newsmax. New York Post adds, Facebook and Instagram removed an interview with former President Donald Trump by his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, simply because it featured Trump speaking and the voice of Donald Trump, Facebook said in an internal email. As big tech companies continue their bid to cancel the ex-commander-in-chief, audio from the podcast The Right View with Lara Trump was yanked from Facebook Tuesday night and reportedly later removed by Instagram. In the interview, the former president blasted social media and news outlets for suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop series published by the Post during his bid for re-election this past fall. When they didn't want to show any of that during the campaign, they just cut it out, like canceled, I guess. You could call it cancel culture right there. To me, that was really the beginning, because it was bad, it's been bad for a really long time, it's been fake for a long time, Trump said. Now let's look at some comments to all this. I really try hard to get comments from both conservative and liberal people, but it's kind of hard to find places where they're not fighting. Actually, what am I saying? It's impossible to find places they're not fighting. You see that in a moment and you're like, oh, once in a year. Logic Lust says, Facebook can ban whatever they want. Moderator says, yeah, but they should still be criticized. Mac Adamanian 1818 adds, and they can be criticized for it too. How they think they can censor a former US president and anyone's post that has his voice in it is beyond me. But I use Facebook for local trading and collecting pages, and to message my friends. It's a shit place to look for political news. Thrills Chills Bills says, man, she went straight for the 1984 reference. Yeah, Lara said in response to the message from Facebook that this is like 1984 by George Orwell. Or 1894? I don't remember. Egan Vegan adds, one thing's for sure, Orwell would have hated her. Nuts adds, personally, I think we need to take a look at the First Amendment with the internet in mind. I'm not sure what the answer is, but one look at one of the Chans and their Nazi cesspools scares me. He's talking about 4chan, and 4chan is a forum that there's a lot of really crazy stuff. It used to be a place for the pedophiles would meet up. Not everybody who used 4chan was doing that, but that's ended up how people use the platform. I don't know if that's still something that's going on there, but it's a pretty dark place for sure. On one hand, I realize that freedom brings problems. If you want free speech, you have to expect to hear speech that you don't like. But then you see the Christchurch massacre that was planned, live streamed, and applauded on 8chan, and I wonder where to draw that line. Then there is the increasingly blurry line between news and social media. Getting information is easier, but so is getting disinformation. I've been rebuffed in internet debates with a Facebook meme, and the person felt that the picture was more reliable than the New York Times or Fox News. I mean, they're not wrong. Like, somebody who thinks a meme is more reliable, it's not so much that they think the meme is more reliable, it's that they're begrunted, they're upset about the reality of disinformation. I encourage you, if you're bothered by disinformation and false news, don't think of it as something that is more common now than it used to be. It's just that we, as average normal people, are significantly more aware of disinformation than we used to be. So when it is given to us, we actually sometimes notice. I encourage you to think this way because it's something that has been rampant through all of our societies. Whether you were a communist or a democratic nation in the 1950s, you lied to your citizens on a regular basis and spread propaganda and controlled them and sent the vast majority of them off to die in war. It didn't matter which side we're on, you both committed atrocity and sin. That was hugely manipulative. This whole pandemic right now, right? COVID? The biggest pandemic prior to this was in 1918, and guess what it's called? The Spanish influenza. And you know why it's called that? Because Spain was the only country that wasn't filtering their newspaper. So everybody was dying to this plague, and Spain was the only country that let its newspaper talk about it. So despite the fact that it was killing people everywhere in Europe, and all of Europe was guilty in that sense, and dying just as much, they were all just literally lying about it. This wasn't that long ago. We're not ever in a land where information was not manipulated and you could just blindly trust everything you heard. We have not lived in that world, and we have the luxury of being like, oh, this sucks, misinformation exists, disinformation's a thing, people can manipulate groups of others by spreading falsehoods. Yo, we're average people and we're aware of that shit. You know how beautiful that is? This is a good thing. Don't get overpowered by the fact that bad things are still happening. Just seriously, just go back in time and look at history. And it's not a matter of if you think it's worse. It's just a matter of at what point can you not, you can't argue that the average person had a better life in 1902. You know that in that era, by the time you were 6, you probably knew multiple people who were dead from tuberculosis alone, not including smallpox, diphtheria, all these other diseases that we don't even know about now. We don't even have to conceptualize that. We don't, as 3, 5, 10-year-old kids, witness our best friends die to diseases that everybody gets eventually. We don't live in a reality where, that this is happening all the time. We live in a reality where the most concernable thing has a very small kill rate. And it's still horrible. It's killed like loads and loads of people, more than the biggest killers. Like if you look at the biggest killers in history right now, every year the biggest killer by far is heart disease, at least in the United States. It's different in other nations because respiratory illness actually kills a lot more people in the less developed countries. But overall, in the United States, heart disease is the bigger killer. But now that COVID's in the picture, COVID is killing equally to heart disease. Just for reference, you could argue that they're kind of mingled, and the people who were going to die of heart disease just die of COVID a little bit sooner, and vice versa. But the reality is more people are dying. There's a metric you can look at, published by the World Health Organization and also there's some census data from the United States, and you can look at how many people are dying, right? So imagine that people are just saying, we're just suggesting that people aren't dying from COVID because they were going to die from heart disease. They were going to die anyway, right? And it's just getting claimed to be COVID. If that was true, then you would have the same amount of deaths overall. That is not true. We have significantly more death than we normally do since the COVID pandemic. You can literally it's very direct. If you look at that data, there are more people dying today than there were 2 years ago because of the sheer number of people who died from COVID. That is a reality, right? Speaking of disinformation and all that crap, you know how much my friends give me shit for just suggesting that this shit's true? And I don't even, a lot of my friends aren't even Republican. They're Democrats. And they don't like that I suggest that your actions right now can kill people. You have to be careful. You have to seriously research and educate yourself. They can get mad at me. It's such bullshit because it's not about Republicans versus Democrats. There's some awesome Republicans and some awesome Democrats. The problem is that we have these fucking shit talkers who just attack and attack and attack and attack. And they don't want to try and understand each other. And most of our people are like that. So therefore, a lot of our politicians are as well. We are a problem in that way. But we don't want to look at that. We don't want to address how we communicate with people because we want to just blame the politicians and get angry and attack and blame everything in our lives on the opposite party we don't support. It's some bullshit. Total serious bullshit. Lobster Harmonica 1667 adds that I don't want the government censoring free speech, except in some very specific situations. I actually want many groups and institutions that I am as part of to have standards and censor speech. So he's saying that he wants private groups, like colleges, whatever, to censor speech, but government groups to not be able to. Christ 46 adds, your rights end where another's begin. Your right to expression does not supersede another's property rights. I cannot express myself without restriction from your front porch. Catalyst 14-80108 adds, the First Amendment only applies to the government, is what people are saying. I'm sorry if you can't figure out what the amendments actually do. Thrills Chills Bills adds, she could just use another platform. Yeah, and she did. That's exactly what happened. Calaticus adds, it might have something to do with the fact that Trump managed to get a group of people so riled up with his lies that they physically attacked the Capitol and interrupted a democratic process. There's so much to unpack here. Give me a second, okay? The world isn't so simple. You can think that Trump's the problem, but whether you like it or not, Trump represents the American way. American history, so much of American culture. Trump embodies that. I'm not saying he's the majority, but he is American. His diet, everything about him, his reality with the truth. We can give him shit all we want, but he's representative of a large group of United States citizens who have power. And that's a reality. And if you think that you can just get rid of Trump and everything just magically gets better and all those problems you were saying were Trump's, they just magically disappear, that's not how the world works. It really isn't. It's way more complicated than that. Killer BS adds, they are not banning content about Trump. They are banning content from Trump. Regardless of who posts a message from Trump, it is still Donald Trump telling his message on their service. Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty fucked up that you can't interview Trump and post it. Like, mean, I get it, but it's sketchy. Warning low battery ads, they're not afraid. They're just enforcing the ban on him by also closing loopholes that are being used to circumvent it in the first place. It's amazing what you can learn by reading the actual article before commenting. This is Reddit. Well, they read the articles they're commenting on. What? Crazy. Lobster Harmonica replies, crazy people with no regard for the truth can absolutely be dangerous. You don't need to be some evil mastermind to be dangerous. Well, there's people on both sides who are dangerous. Alpha Charlie Romeo says, I hope the government does something about social media sites and politics. The use of targeted news and advertisements is causing so much division. There's also the issue of shadow profiling and privacy issues. I have serious problems with social media, but at the same time, I feel like they have the right to ban Trump from their platform. They should have the right to do what they want with their platform, minus the shadow profiling. They shouldn't have the right to gather information on people who do not consent to it. I'm probably being hypocritical in this. I have not properly thought this conflict through and how to address it. Damn. How humble. That's unusual. Alright, now this is ending, and I'll just reflect with another rant from me, the person who's been reading all of this. I want to make something clear. I don't like Trump, but I'm not an idiot. Nobody is pure evil. Everybody has bad sides and good sides. Biden is not a saint. Trump is not the devil. Trump lies habitually, but he is totally honest about things that most of the other politicians, Biden included, lie about all the time. For example, Trump will openly talk about the Saudi Arabian government and the relationship with the United States, and he'll make comments along the lines of, they buy loads of stuff from us, so we're really not going to do anything about their humanitarian issues. Meanwhile, Biden just condemns Saudi Arabia verbally and actually won't do anything. And that's kind of the Democratic way, like that's the way of the Democrats in a lot of situations. So we can't act like Trump lying. It's not like Trump is the only politician who's ever lied. Politicians lying is a synonym for most people, right? I mean, that's a reality, right? So why are we gonna act like this is a new thing? When Trump's he's an entertainer. So of course when he became president, after literally entertaining and trying to make prolific media and video and shows, of course he's gonna be this way. Of course he's gonna be provocative. It's literally who he is. It's who we as people, whether you elected him or not, your country elected him. I didn't vote in that election. I didn't feel close enough to either candidate to vote. I didn't feel like my vote actually mattered, and I chose not to vote, okay? But, you know, it's not as simple as we like to put it. And the whole point of Trump is kind of moot because he lies so often that he can tell the truth and people don't notice that he's telling the truth. Like, it's hilarious because I dislike that he's constantly lying, but he'll every now and then, pretty regularly, he just says something that is so authentic and true about politics that I'm just like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening to the world? And I'm not trying to say anything about free speech and Facebook, because Facebook is a private company. It can do whatever it wants. Facebook isn't the US government. Although, honestly, the US government does whatever it wants, regardless of whether it's Republican-led or democratically led. From a worldwide perspective, you know, I'm biased, I live in Latin America. Yeah, you could probably figure out why I'm biased already. That being said, I'm personally scared of Trump getting banned on social media platforms. I don't think that it's going to result in Trump going away. His followers are just going to leave the liberal platforms like Facebook, and then new platforms are going to accommodate Trump followers, which is, again, huge amounts of people. So we're going away from having a monopoly, which is good, because the reality is a lot of conservative people are going to leave websites like Facebook. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But first, my first instinct is to be scared, because I think we need conversation between Republicans and Democrats. I think that we need more people who feel differently to listen and speak to other people. We need Republicans to be around more Democrats in their lives. And we need more Republicans to be around, or more Democrats to be around more Republicans. That's what we need. But I don't know if everybody having their own social media site, because that's just going to become the norm, right? There's going to be the conservative-leaning version of Facebook, and then there's Facebook, and then there's going to be the conservative-leaning version of YouTube, and YouTube. And I guess from the tech companies, it's literally a fucking liability thing. They just don't want to get in trouble for something violent that happened because of usage of their platform. So they're just going to ban it, I guess. I think that's probably why. I don't know if that's why they said they would, but what Facebook is doing, like, think about the prohibition of alcohol. Really, think about prohibition of anything, the expense of the drug war. You could argue that the drug war caused hundreds of thousands, if not more, deaths in Latin America alone. If you don't counter all of the incarcerated people in the United States and all the resources we spend on these people, the lives we perpetuate them into, instead of educating them and providing them with more resources to get out of their life. You know what happens in the US when you get in trouble? The first thing that happens is you get put with a bunch more people who've gotten in trouble. That's so dumb. I knew that because I got in trouble. I got kicked out of high school. You know what happened? I got put on a bus filled with kids who'd also gotten kicked out of high school. And let me tell you, you have to be pretty aware to not become like the people you're around. So the moment you are always around criminals, how are you supposed to get out of that life? Seriously. And prohibition hasn't had a good history at all. What if you look at history, when we try and force to ban something, it often creates a prolifically powerful black market of the thing we're trying to ban. You can't just force something to change artificially. You have to really, really try and understand the whole picture and influence the powers that change and produce what you're looking at. If you don't do that, you're lost. And Facebook banning Trump, I'm pretty sure is just a liability move. And it's gonna result in these other platforms, these really conservative-leaning platforms, just becoming much stronger. And honestly, at first I was worried about that, but you know what? If there's less monopolies, that's good. Maybe this is just the beginning of the end of the monopolization of tech companies. You know, people are going to act like the government's going to do it, but no. It's always competition. Competition always eventually destroys a monopoly. Monopolies cannot continue to exist. A monopoly is never sustainable. It will always eventually be destroyed by circumstance that allows for multiple competitors to enter the market. It's just a matter of how long that happens, you know, because a monopoly could exist for like 100 years, 300 years before that happens, but it's always going to die. They don't live much longer than the humans leading them in a lot of situations, in most situations. It's only a select few that are able to outlive the humans that hold all their power. And we shouldn't be so critical of each other. We should really promote, maybe it is better, like, I don't know. If it leads to there being more than just two, the problem is which is worse? People who are extreme only being around other people who are extreme, continuing to perpetuate and further their discussion, or people arguing? I don't know. I would argue that we need to change as people. You, whoever you are, you need to find people who think differently than you. It's your civic duty. Anyway, alright everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, please comment below, subscribe to our channel, or watch another one of our videos. We are about to split this channel up, so I'll do a little poll thing for the 33 of you who are subscribed, and we'll see what you want. Reality is only 2 or 3 of you will watch this video, and you're going to determine what happens. Best of luck, everybody. See you next time.